Hey, fans, we got a little change of pace this week for you. We talked about how we were going to do 2 episodes this week. Bryant, Nolan, and Dave and myself sat down and talked about this a little bit. The week 0 review wasn't going to be much. So we felt like we would jam-pack this episode and bring you all the heat right here on this episode. So tonight, you have Bryant and myself. Dave's got some things going on with his kids. Hey, best of luck to them and the surgery that they have on the horizon here. I'm glad everything's going well for them. Nolan's off on a vacation. I think he's going to get a little bit more heat since it cooled off back here in Missouri. He's going to go warm up a little bit. Again, he just couldn't stand this nice weather that we have here in Missouri finally. But Deep Threat Sports Network fans, we are back tonight, and I'm excited as hell for this episode. Bryant, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Week 0 was pretty exciting, but this stacked card slate of games, I'm going to call it in week 1, has me excited. Whole lot of must-watch games I feel like we'll talk about later. But, man, it's good. Me and you, the OGs, we're going to take care of this episode.
The OGs are back at it. We got just the duo box tonight. It feels good, though, man. It feels good. I'm excited to do this with you, and we can really break this thing down all the way. So tonight, actually, let me back up for just 1 second. Let's talk about the weather. We do that every episode. It feels like football season. It finally feels like football season. You can go outside and not break a sweat, enjoy a cold brew on the patio. Things are changing, and I'm excited about it. But, yeah, you are 100% right, Brian. Week 0 was kind of just an appetizer, but it was a good appetizer. We had some exciting games where we didn't think some games would be exciting, and we had some games end up when we were on the wrong side of it. So on tonight's episode, we are going to do a full review of Week 0 from the games that we covered on the preview, review our Book It segment a little bit, and then we're going to roll right into the Week 1 preview, and it is a loaded stack. Jordan getting in here early with the let's go comment. Glad to have you tonight, Jordan. Make sure you're commenting all the way. Hey, tell your friends, tell your family, get in here, like, subscribe, click the alert button so you know when we go live, because we might be doing this unorthodox here moving forward. We might be popping in at random times when we see fit. So, Bryant, let's waste no time, and let's get right into this thing, and let's start talking about a little bit of this Week 0 stuff. So you guys know how we do it if you followed along all last season. To begin the episode on the reviews, we are going to talk about what we like to call our dog of the week. And this week for you, we have none other than, hey, listen to the dogs bark. Listen to the dogs bark. We have none other than Carson Hansen coming out of Iowa State. Not the most it's not going to blow your mind with the stat line, but we're going to talk a little bit about why we chose him to be our dog of the week. He had 16 carries for 71 yards. We saw him get a critical 4th down catch to kind of ice the game and put it in the books. Almost got in the end zone there to hit it for all the over-bettors out there. And if you had the under, man, you squeaked by literally less than a foot. Bryant, tell the fans why we like Carson Hansen this week a little bit more.
We didn't really see him a whole lot in the first half, and that's understandable. Teams are trying to get in the flow. But the second half, and they said it multiple times on the broadcast, he was just leaning on that K-State front, getting 4 or 5 yards a run. They weren't flashy runs by any means, but they were the runs you need to salt the game away and to get control of the game on the offensive side of the ball. That's exactly what he did. They were mixing it in with Salma early, but he was the go-to there in the second half to really put the icing on the cake for this win. Big win, for that matter, for Iowa State against Kansas State there in Ireland. I think this was an easy choice personally for Dog of the Week with Carson Hansen. I think we're going to see a lot more of him moving on the rest of their 11 games.
But what's crazy about him too, Brian, is you kind of see Sama come in. He's kind of a little bit quicker, not as big of a load as Carson Hansen is coming through the offensive line there right into your defense. And when Sama and this offense wear down your defense and you put this big load Hansen in to end the game, man, he is a totally different presence when you're trying to bring this guy to the ground than what Sama is early in the football game. So, yeah, I agree this was easy for me. I know there was some better stat lines out there from some players in other games, but I just felt like if Iowa State didn't have Hansen down the stretch, this game would have ended differently. So this was an easy pick for us. One more time, what's up the dogs bark for Carson Hansen? This is going to take us right into what we want to talk about next, right? This is going to take us right into our Week 0 preview. And with that being said, the first game that we have on the docket is going to be Kansas State, Iowa State. Brian, we were on the wrong side of this, and I don't love that, right? We don't love being wrong. We talk about how great our season was last year, but Iowa State 24, Kansas State 21. Bryant, tell me what you saw in this football game a little bit more.
Personally, I just think Iowa State made the adjustments and Kansas State didn't. In my opinion, Kansas State played the better first half. They were getting to Rocco Beck, forcing turnovers, kind of controlling the game. Yeah, they weren't moving the ball on offense, but they were still in the game. But in the second half, you saw Iowa State make some coverage or some blocking adjustments. They went to Carson Hansen, like we mentioned, more and did a little bit more of the play action, and it paid dividends. Rocco Beck made plays when Avery Johnson didn't. Joe Jackson, yeah. That brings up the whole other thing with Dylan Edwards, which I'm sure we'll get into here in a bit. But Iowa State just played better down the stretch. Kansas State did not. Avery Johnson looked bad, dude. I mean, did you agree with me? It looks like he couldn't throw the ball. Yeah, it was wet, but Rocco Beck didn't have that issue. I mean, everything was either a duck or it was diving into the ground, making it really hard for his guys to catch. That was part of it. Felt like he took the ball and ran on the non-designed running plays for him a little bit too soon and didn't move through progressions. Yeah, you could see that with it being week 0 and kind of getting their feet underneath them, but I just expected better. Personally, I don't think either team played all overly that good of a football game, but K-State had their chance and Iowa State just locked it up. Man, that drop pick for K-State there in the fourth quarter really hurt them. They were going to be in prime field position to go and take the lead. I was hoping they would for our bucket segment, but it just didn't happen. I think Iowa State just made the plays when they needed to, and Kansas State did not.
So I got a couple things on this, Brian. I'm going to push back a little bit on the Avery Johnson situation. I think early in the game, you kind of saw Avery Johnson struggle. I think we talked about that in our group chat. I think we all agreed at that. You're right. His throws seemed a little bit off. That can sometimes be expected really early on. You're trying to get some timing right. It's a totally different environment. You're over there in Dublin. So maybe it sounds like I'm making a little bit of excuses for him, but I'm going to push back on the sense that I think Avery Johnson looked a lot better than Rocco Beck, especially full game when you break it down. Avery Johnson, 21 of 30 with 2 touchdowns. You see Iowa State go up 2 possessions right there late in the game with about 5 or 6 minutes left, and we were all kind of talking, okay, icing's on the cake. This game's over. Avery Johnson comes out, makes a great read, uses his eyes, walks that safety, gets him to bite, and then dumps it over the top for an absolute incredible touchdown to make things extremely, extremely interesting. So I really like what Avery Johnson did down the stretch. I'm going to disagree with that a little bit, but I do agree with you early that Avery Johnson looked to be a little bit on the struggling sense. So I don't know. As a whole, I'm telling you right now, I'm taking Kansas State again -3. I think they were still the better football team. I do agree that what Iowa State did was enough to win the football game. Here's where my biggest problem with Kansas State was in this whole entire football game. I thought the play calling offensively from Kansas State was horrible. I thought Matt Wells at times looked to be overwhelmed, and I thought Matt Wells at times looked to be too conservative, right? When Kansas State would get a stop and the game was tied and Kansas State would get the ball back, then you see them be extremely conservative on the offensive play calling. And I asked myself so many times, what the hell is this Mickey Mouse offense we're running? Are you that scared of field conditions? Are you that scared to turn the ball up? Avery Johnson did not throw an interception. That was one thing coming into this game I was looking for. Does Avery Johnson take care of the football? Because last year, you see him every once in a while do something kind of dumb. And in this game, Brian, I didn't think he did it. I didn't think Rocco Beck looked that great either. Now, there was tons of drops. Let's talk about a key drop from Kansas State on a 4th down late in the 3rd quarter. They go for it. Avery Johnson rolls left, throws across his body. I'll give the receiver this. It's shitty field conditions. It's a little damp. The ball's probably a little bit wet. And Avery Johnson threw an absolute piss missile dart at about 6 yards for a 1st down right through his hands up. That's a critical catch. You make that catch, this game probably goes differently. So I thought Kansas State looked pretty good. I'm not that timid about them moving forward. Now, let me give credit to Iowa State where it's due. They did the right things offensively. They were, I think, 4 for 4 on 4th down. That's the difference, Brian. You go 4 for 4 on 4th down. That is the difference when your opponent goes 1 for 4 on 4th down, especially one time inside your own 30, and you go for it late in the game. And you dial up a QB sweep to the left side of the field, Brian. What are we doing? If you have Avery Johnson, man, all game in our group text, I wanted to see nothing but Avery Johnson bootlegs. I wanted to see him roll out, have the option to pass it and dunk it off on a bootleg or take it himself. And then that right there, he got absolutely lit up. I thought he fell forward and got the 1st down.
He was short.
You talked about this in our pre-show lobby where they had to go back out at halftime and restripe the field. We've got to get away from Dublin football games. We have to get away from these. I am not a fan of these. One thing I also want to point out, too, Iowa State made halftime adjustments to go win the football game. Kansas State did not. We talked earlier in our group text, too, while we were watching that whole entire football game. The right side of Iowa State's offensive line getting blown up, eaten alive. How do you say his name? Obiasor and Austin Romaine, two guys that we've talked about on this show. Dude, they did their jobs. They did their jobs defensively for K-State, made Iowa State make the adjustments and go win the football game, and they did that. I just thought Kansas State ran a Mickey Mouse offense, and I hated it.
Yeah, K-State's team defense for sure was the much better unit compared to Iowa State. That's no doubt. It's just Iowa State kind of got into their game and slowed it down, almost like their state rival Iowa does, and just that was what they needed to do to win the game, and it worked. Personally, I think Avery Johnson didn't play as good of a game as I think you're giving it to him. He got a little bit inflated stats with the long touchdown and a few other plays here and there. I think he did look a little better than Rocco Becht. It just seemed like Rocco was a little bit more poised when it came down to the play they absolutely needed in that time frame. But I don't know. I agree with you. I'm not out on K-State for sure. It's week 0 with 11 more games. Big 12 was still wide open. Possible this game could happen again down the road. So that's going to be interesting to see. I think we have to talk about Dylan Edwards a little bit. I don't know about you. He must have been seriously injured before the game because that fumble he had in the first quarter, I mean, he got up and like jogged off. He didn't look injured.
He didn't grab anything. Anything. He ran off the field.
He had been injured already.
Yes, he was taking some serious heat from Kansas State fans online, and he was throwing out tweets talking about doubt me now or whatever and all these things. I don't want to speculate on injuries because that's something that obviously we're not in the locker room. We're not in the medical tent. We're not on the field with them. Maybe he really is hurt. Maybe he was hurt prior to the game. My biggest question, though, Brian, is if he was hurt prior to the game, what in the hell do you have him returning punts for?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If he's hurt, why is he doing that? So either it's either A, he was fine and something happened really bad that just wasn't obvious on video, or B, he should not have been back there. And it's a mistake either way. So that was just kind of puzzling to me. And then one thing I want to add, and everybody saw it. What in God's great creation are Avery Johnson's dad and brother doing outside after the game? I thought it was fake, dude.
Look, man, family feuds happen. It gets a little tense. The dad and the brother are throwing dukes in the parking lot. I respect the shit out of that. They're mad because they just lost a football game. One probably told Avery Johnson to transfer. One probably didn't, and they're probably out there reviewing that he should have transferred. Who knows, man? They issued a big apology. Definitely needed to happen. Things look to be a little bit of a dumpster fire for Kansas State, but let's throw it all out because it all happened in Ireland.
I saw that, and I was like, man, college football is back.
College football is back. I love it. But, yeah, like I said, let's throw all this out. It happened in Ireland. I would say this even if Kansas State won and Iowa State looked good. Throw it out. The field conditions were shitty. They did this pregame thing on TV where they were asking people from Dublin, what's Kansas State's mascot? What's Iowa State's mascot? All these football questions. These people had no interest for any of these. Why are we giving them a quality Farmageddon matchup? Mm-hmm. Let's not do this. I get you're trying to grow the sport, but let's not do this. Josh comes in with a comment. Let's go, boys, another 2-episode week. Josh, no, this is going to be a 1-episode week for us, and the reason being is because week 0 was pretty short. It was kind of an appetizer, so not much to dissect here. So we're going to do everything on this episode. Going to be a little bit longer, but we're about that. That's why we got going early. And you also said my hat is backwards. You comment on the hat every week. I love it. This might be a full season thing for me involving hats. The hat is backwards. The season has started. Shit is serious now. You are absolutely correct. And, fellas, I'm glad for all the comments. Keep them coming. This is awesome stuff right here. But, yeah, Kansas State, Iowa State, great football game, great appetizer. Iowa State coming out with the dub. I think it moves them up the board a little bit for the Big 12 championship odds. Kansas State doesn't fall too much. We'll see what it looks like moving forward for these two teams. The next matchup that we are going to talk about is Fresno State at Kansas. Fresno State 7, Kansas 31. Brian, what were you kind of seeing in this football game? Because I saw a Kansas team that when Fresno State was on script and they came out and had those plays drawn up already, working all offseason for this first drive, Kansas came out, scored 7. Fresno State came out, scored 7. Both teams straight down the field. Kansas defense steps up a little bit, knocks Fresno State off script, and we kind of see this game peter out and become a lull here a little bit. So what did you see in this one?
Yeah, I was a little bit intrigued after that first drive for both teams. I mean, Fresno looked really good, and Kansas did on offense, not on defense. So I was like, man, this might be a pretty tight game. Hopefully, it's high scoring for our Book It segment. But they settled in late. Man, Jalen Daniels, when he's healthy, he's got to be up there with one of the more athletic and overall well-rounded quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion. He was making people miss in the field. He was actually sitting in the pocket this year and throwing the ball and reading defenses, which the last couple of years he would just bail and run. Thought he took too many big hits there late that he needs to avoid to stay upright and healthy, which has been his Achilles heel in the past. Man, Kansas has got some weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Cam Pickett is a well-rounded receiver. Highshaw seems like he's filled right in for what Devin Neal left to go to the NFL. Kansas looked good. I think their defense, though, needs some work. They weren't getting to the passer, and Fresno was completing a lot of passes late into the play, deep down the field and over the middle. That can't happen when it comes to conference play and bigger opponents either. So I think they can fix that up. They're going to be a pretty good football team. But yeah, about the third quarter, they kind of set back and just cruised to a victory there in their new stadium in front of a bunch of fans. So I thought they looked good. I'm not really changed either in my opinion on Kansas.
Yeah, I thought this was a game where Kansas came out, had a good first showing in their new stadium, did what they needed to do, did enough where they could coast in the second half and not worry about too many injuries and get Daniels out of there healthy, knowing that they have big matchups moving forward. My only concern, you touched on this a little bit, and I don't have much to add on this game either, but touch on this a little bit is Daniels took a lot of hits, man, and that really concerns me if I'm a Kansas fan moving forward down the season, knowing that how was I getting hit so hard playing Fresno State? How was my quarterback taking so many big licks against a Fresno State football team when you're moving forward against these Power 4 opponents? Good luck, man. Keep Daniels healthy. You're right. They do have some talent. And Cam Pickett, yeah, he was a close second for me on Dog of the Week. So I did have some talent as well. But interested to see what they do moving forward. But, yeah, man, not a whole lot to add on this Kansas-Fresno State game. Real quick before we get off, let's see what comments we got coming in here. Tristan says, Kansas State had feeling like Johnson dad and brother when I had DTSN Bryant over to watch. So we're catching a little bit of heat, I guess, for the picks there on that Kansas State game. Thanks, Tristan, for that. Jordan comes in. I was incoherent during the game, so glad to get a rerun on why the over didn't hit. Because, man, like we said, they just got out in front and scored enough where they didn't have to do anything. And Fresno State could not move the ball. Once they got off that first possession script, they were in serious trouble, and nothing worked for them. Kurt Warner's son there at quarterback just did not look good moving forward throughout the rest.
He had a couple bad picks, for sure.
They were not great, man.
I mean, it was 31-7 with like 12 minutes to go in the third quarter. I was like, this is going to be, a non-sweat. And then it slowly just ticked down and then never scored again, either side.
Happens all the time, man. You see it happen all the time.
I do want to add one thing on Kansas real quick. Their offensive line looked a little shaky at times in this game. Jalen Daniels was having to get out of the pocket and run a bunch. So that's something to keep an eye on this season with better defenses. Yeah. And then be able to hold up against some of these defensive ends and interior linemen that they might see down the stretch. That has me a little bit concerned.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to there a little bit, man. Is when you play these bigger Power 4 opponents, good luck. It's going to be a grind for you if you're having that much trouble with Fresno State. The next game that we're going to talk about, kind of the last key one that we're really going to do a little bit of dissecting on because we had a bet on this, is Stanford at Hawaii. The only thing that I'm really going to say much about this football game is Stanford is as bad as we thought that they were. Stanford 20, Hawaii 23, and Stanford had 10 points quick, right? They go kick a field goal if I'm not mistaken. They kick it off. Hawaii fair catches it on the 2-yard line, if I'm not mistaken on that as well. And then the next play, we have Alejandro roll out. He's feeling some pressure in the end zone, goes to get strip sacked. Stanford falls on. It's 10-0 quick, and they allow Hawaii to come back. You know you're a bad football team if you go up 10-0 that quick and you allow a team to come back against you and cover whenever you had a 10-0 pad right out of the gate. So this Stanford football team, I'd be shocked if they win. This is why we have them on the season book it win total under 3.5, because I'd be surprised if they win 2 games moving forward, Bryant. This was one I felt like they had to get, and They're not great. The only thing for Hawaii moving forward, offensive line needs to be a little bit better. Allow Alejado to have a few more seconds in the pocket there to dissect the defense. But Stanford's not good. Hawaii, big matchup against Arizona. Let's see if they can go out and maybe go 2-0 against some Power 4 opponents.
Yeah, I agree with everything from the Stanford front. Something to watch on Hawaii side. Alejado did get hurt in this game, so that's going to be something to monitor moving on. I read earlier today, I think he's going to be fine for this week. But like you mentioned, offensive line has to be shored up a little bit on that side of the ball and keep him upright. But yeah, Stanford's bad. We got the walk-off cover on a game-winning field goal, so that's always nice. But yeah, expect a little bit out of Hawaii this season. I think they're going to be better than previous years, but Stanford I have zero hope for.
Stanford's in big, big trouble. You go like 8 of 17 on third downs against Hawaii. It's not a good look.
It's not like Hawaii is a knockdown, drag out defense either.
All right, Bryant, let's do one of our favorite things here. Let's move into a little bit of a quickie. We got our review quickie here real quick. One game that we want to touch on real softly here. Idaho State 31 at UNLV 38. Bryant, UNLV was like 30-point favorites coming into this football game, and they sat there and messed around with the Big Sky powerhouse in Idaho State and allowed Idaho State to throw and run all over this UNLV defense. Nothing good for UNLV in this football game. They are damn lucky they came out with a W. Dan Mullen, bad first showing here at UNLV. Alex Orji is as bad as advertised. Fumbles going into the end zone. And I'm drawing a blank. Calandria from Virginia is as bad as advertised. This is two not great quarterbacks. UNLV is going to be lucky moving forward to win 7-8 football games.
Absolutely. I mean, I really had no intentions of monitoring this game at all, but then I find myself downloading Mountain West Network to get ready to watch this game just because it was close and Idaho State was winning for the majority of it. So yeah. I wrote here on a note, I have no words. UNLV has so many holes that I don't think can be repaired, especially when you have bad quarterback play. They are far from the team that we saw in Vegas last year, not even close. When you give this many yards and this many points to an FCS Big Sky team, that's personally embarrassing. So Dan Mullen's there, but that's pretty much all they have going for them. The running back room is okay, but it looks so much better when your quarterback room is so bad. It just kind of elevates that play. So, yeah, not much to say about this game besides the fact that UNLV's got some issues.
New coaching staff, whole new roster. Chalk it up to that in week one, I guess, if you want to find anything positive moving forward. Real quick, we're going to review our Book It segment from week 0. Even if we had a bad week, we're still gonna review it. Good. We got some booze coming in. We did go 1-2 this week. We're not used to losing. We don't like it. It's not going to. Hey, Lee Bryce said it best. It won't be like this for long. Our only win was Hawaii -2. We did lose Kansas, Fresno State over 50, and K-State -3. I'm going to be honest with you, Bryant. I would bet all 3 of those again. I feel good about all 3 of those. I'd bet them all 3 again right now if I had to moving forward. Anything on our picks?
The 2 that we lost, I feel like we're right there to cover both games. So I feel like we're on the right side. It just didn't work out. And that's week 0, man. You never know. It's a crapshoot. It's based off of total speculation at this point, similar to what we're going to see in week 1 coming up here this weekend.
Yeah, week 0, week 1, week 2, week 3 are the hardest to bet because, like you said, you're betting on what you think teams are supposed to do, what they should do, what they need to do. And it doesn't always happen that way. You get these game 1 jitters, these game 2 jitters, players trying to do too much, really trying to come into their own. So it can be tough at times, but the grind doesn't stop for us. We're going to get right back on that horse, and that's going to lead us right into, right now, our week 1 preview. So on this particular part of the episode, I guess would be a new episode if we had a longer week here from week 0, but we didn't. So we're going to talk about Auburn, Baylor, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, and we're going to hit you with some quickies. We got 3 games on the back half to get quick with it, and then we have our Book It segment, and we're right back on that to make some money. I have no doubts, Bryant. We're going to get back on this train and get after it. We got a comment in real quick from Jordan. Central Arkansas alternative spread. I'm hoping that you mean like Mizzou minus like 70. I don't shut your mouth, Jordan. I don't like it.
Can we ban somebody from the comments? Is that
I'm just going to tell fans exactly how it is. Shut your mouth. That's terrible. We don't talk about those things here. All right, Brian. Let's go ahead and get right into this thing then real quick and flat get after it. Auburn, Baylor is the first game that we are going to talk about here, and it comes in at Auburn -2.5 at Baylor, the over-under 57.5. What are you looking for in this football game, Brian?
This is an intriguing matchup, really. One of the better, matchups as far as not really sure what's going to go. That's on the slate this weekend. We've talked about it in the Big 12 and the SEC preview that this is a trap game and could be a loss for Auburn if they don't play well, especially with all of the stuff going down there with multiple guys calling plays and the quarterback room being, a concern. And then Hugh Freeze kind of all the pressure he's putting on himself for no reason. I think Auburn's a better team. I think Baylor has the better quarterback in Sawyer Robinson, just not as many weapons. This is a game where you need Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton to step up and take over this game for you to win. I hope to see that. Auburn needs to lean on their defense. I think they're much better on that side of the ball. And then let whoever the quarterback room, whether it's Jackson Arnold or whoever, kind of settle in and get going.
Yeah, I agree with all the things you said. I think Auburn really needs to rely on the defense here. They definitely have the better defense of the two teams. What do we see from Sawyer Robinson? What do we see from Auburn if they're supposedly going to play multiple quarterbacks, if they're supposedly going to have multiple guys calling plays? What do we see come out of that? That is what makes me nervous for this Auburn football team. That is when I really sit here and take a step back and think, man, I don't really know if Auburn's going to be ready to go in this football game. You hear everything coming out of the camp, and nothing sounds good coming out of there. So I don't like any of those things. I don't like the vibes. I don't feel great about Auburn. So I don't know, man. And Waco is not an easy place to play. They can get up. They're going to get rowdy for game one of the season, especially at home against Auburn. You're bringing in an SEC opponent. They're gonna flat get after it here. But if you're Auburn, you got to draw up plays for Cam Coleman. You got to draw up plays for Eric Singleton. You got to let these two guys eat. They are true difference makers at the receiver position for Auburn. Doesn't matter who you have at quarterback. Get those two guys the ball. Let them go make plays. Sawyer Robinson on the flip side needs to find Josh Cameron early and often. He's a difference maker at receiver as well. Very under-the-radar receiver. This guy can truly go make plays for your football team. Allow him to go to work and allow this Baylor offense to really get things going. So I think this is going to be a fantastic football game. This game is on Friday night, 7 p.m. on Fox. Also, if you have YouTube TV, make sure you're paying attention because come Wednesday, tomorrow, it is looking like YouTube TV might lose Fox. So If that's the case, find an alternative way to find this football game because you don't want to miss this one. This is going to be fantastic. Can the Baylor offensive line hold up and keep Sawyer Robinson on his feet? That is the question in this football game for me, Brian.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be really close. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking to see I think it's going to be Jackson Arnold. I really do. I'm looking to see how Auburn looks on that side of the ball because they were gaining a lot of momentum last year. Granted, it was with a different quarterback in the second half than what they have coming in this year. But if they can keep that rolling, Auburn could make some noise this season. But this is a big one game to kind of start that roll.
Well, and this is just an absolute huge momentum builder for both programs on this season, right? I mean, this is a way to really catapult you into the next level of football teams moving forward throughout the football season. So last time, Friday night, 7 p.m. on Fox, Auburn is the betting favorite at -2.5 at Baylor, over under 57.5. Bryant, the next football game that we are going to talk about is none other than probably the most exciting matchup of the whole entire season, damn near. This is a week one absolute slugfest. Massive implications on this football game. Let's talk some serious ball here, and that is Texas at Ohio State. This game is Saturday, 11 a.m. on Fox. Once again, be careful with the Fox BS right now with YouTube TV if you're a big subscriber to them. Texas at Ohio State. Ohio State -2.5, over under 47.5. Bryant, who has the edge? What are you thinking happens in this football game?
Man, this is an elite week one matchup for college football. Major playoff implications starting in week one. I mean, this game is going to be talked about in December for sure when it comes down to picking the playoff teams there after the conference championship games. Personally, I think Ohio State is the better team on both sides of the football. Now, that's a razor thin margin. I just think they have better players. We're getting the same situation with quarterbacks. I would say Arch Manning is a little bit more seasoned, but Julian Saint is good. Arch Manning is probably slightly better, But Jeremiah Smith is unreal. We've talked about him at length. And then Caleb Downs on the defensive side of the ball. And I think Ohio State special teams is better too. I'm interested to see how Texas shows up in this game, it being in the horseshoe. That's going to be a major factor to see if they can respond. Yeah, these guys have played in plenty of big games, but this is an opener in Ohio State. You don't get that as often as you see these other SEC games that later down the year. But we got it in our notes here. I think this game comes down to the trenches. Both teams are as talented as any in the country on the outsides and in the secondary on defense. That it's going to come down to who blocks better, who keeps the quarterback more comfortable in the pocket, and I think that's going to be who the winner is. Whoever played better on the offensive side of the ball, as the offensive line is concerned.
When it comes down to the trenches, and I totally agree with you. That's where this game comes down to, because both teams are so talented on the back half of their defense. Skill players, they're both so talented. So when it comes down to the trenches, what really worries me is Texas's offensive line is really banged up at that right tackle spot. We got a guy that's already out. We got another guy that replaced him that looks to be a little banged up too. So you're getting pretty thin on that offensive line. And word out of camp is Ohio State loves their offensive line. They've had no switching around, moving around guys on that unit like they did last year. They feel really good about what they have offensive line. And obviously we have nothing but skill position talent all over the board. First round talent for both these teams. I'm going to push back a little bit. I do think Texas's defense as a unit, as a whole, is better than Ohio State's defense, Brian. I think Texas has the best player defensively in Caleb Downs. Ohio State has the best player defensively in Caleb Downs, and Ohio State has the best player offensively in Jeremiah Smith, who, if you follow college football, you definitely know those two names. Future first rounders, there's no questions about it. But Ohio State, Julian Sayin plugging in at quarterback this year, I'm a little nervous because this is such a big game, right? This is such a big game for Arch Manning too, especially going to the shoe. But man, sometimes these home crowds can get real antsy and they can flip on their quarterback too real quick when he's a first-time starter or they have a little bit unease about what's going on. So if you see Sayin looking a little rocky against this Texas defense, don't be surprised if the fans get antsy because this Keenholz Sayin matchup at the quarterback position came so deep into the offseason right here before this first game. You may hear some fans get really upset with how things are going. Now, that's worst case scenario, right? If things are going well, they're going to love saying he's the next savior, and all he's got to do is find Carnell Tate, Smith, Max Clare, nothing but options. I'm also anxious to see how this running back room looks for Ohio State. Word on the street is they love their running back room yet again. You move on from Henderson and Judkins, and you replace both those guys with two more studs that are coming in. I'm really excited for this matchup. Also, Arch Manning, Ryan Wingo. Get used to hearing that. Ryan Wingo is a burner. He is a guy that can get behind secondaries. I think you see Caleb Downs kind of lurk to his side of the field, cover him over the top, make sure he doesn't get behind him. And Caleb Downs is a guy that can do that. So this is a hell of a matchup. It's a Final Four matchup that we get right here in week 1 of the season. Do not miss this football game. I don't care what you have going on. Don't miss it. Also, the winner of this football game, expect that quarterback to be damn near the betting favorite, especially if Texas wins. Expect Arch Manning to be the betting favorite for the Heisman at that point, locking it up, it feels like, in week 1. And if Julian Sayin and Ohio State win, you're going to watch him fly to the top of these Heisman odds as well. So if you're a betting man, make sure you're tuning into all that. Last thing on this game for me, what does it look like with 2 new coordinators for Ohio State? Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, which one of these guys are really calling the plays? You hear it's going to be Hartline. What does that look like without Chip Kelly? What does it look like with Jim Knowles leaving this defensive side, going to Penn State? Exciting stuff here, Bryant. This Texas coaching staff, I give the edge to them in this football game.
Yeah, one thing to pay attention to, this is my last point. I think the biggest matchup in this game, personally, is Ohio State's offensive line versus the defensive front of Texas. If Colin Simmons is getting in the face of Julian Sayin to start this game off, it's going to be a long day for him. Not going to say they're going to get blown out, but if Julian Sayin's under pressure from that defensive line of Texas, it's going to make it very tough on them. I think they're going to try to bottle up Smith from the outside. I think you're going to see them run the ball more than they probably would normally, and then get Carnell Tate and Max Clare involved because they're going to put the house on Jeremiah Smith, and they're going to pin their ears back and rush the passer as best they can. So offensive line, Ohio State, Texas defensive line, going to be a crazy good matchup there.
Let's not forget how good Carnell Tate is too, though. There's a real case for Carnell Tate would be maybe the number 1 on Texas as a receiver. And
Oh,
this
yeah, for sure.
absolute loaded skill position wise for this Ohio State football team. Cannot wait for this one. The next game we're going to talk about here is another great football game. Another what usually would be a bigger football game than what this one looks like it's going to be. That is Alabama at Florida State on Saturday at 2:30 on ABC. Alabama minus 13.5. The over-under 50.5 in this football game. We know one thing's for sure about this football game. Alabama has had poster board material in this locker room and weight room for the last month because Thomas Castellanos had to put his foot in his mouth and just couldn't help himself. I love that he had the confidence, right? You want to believe all the things that he was saying about what he's going to do to Alabama and how great he feels about this Alabama, or how great he feels about this Florida State football team matching up against Alabama. But there's some things you don't do, and that's you don't piss off Alabama. Castellanos definitely did that. Bryant, with this football game, it's all Alabama, right?
Oh, yeah. And Jordan's comment here about Nolan getting his rocks off. Personally, I don't know about you, Colin. I think Nolan's more pessimistic about this game than me and you are.
Yes.
Coming from the Florida State guy. So I don't really understand that. I think Florida State's going to be better, but, man, it's time for Castellanos to put money where his mouth is. Personally, I think that was stupid for him to do that, but we'll see. Both brand new quarterbacks for both teams. I think Jam Miller being out for Alabama does hurt them a little bit on the offensive side of the ball, but they have plenty of good running back depth like they always do to backfill him. Definitely think Alabama is the more talented team on both sides of the ball. But this game is in Tallahassee. That stadium is always packed and a tough place to play. We will see what happens. Excited to see how Ty Simpson looks for Alabama. I really do think he's the real deal. He stayed and he's done his duty with that team to be the starter now for this season. So going to think he's going to show out in this game. And yeah, I think it's all Alabama.
I think Alabama offensively is leaps and bounds better this year than they were last year. I think Ty Simpson's a better quarterback than Milroe when it comes to the offense they're trying to run. I think this receiving core, year two of Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton coming over from Miami, this is a loaded receiving core, man. And if Jam Miller's on the field and healthy, I really like what this offense looks like. That injury has me a little concerned, but I expect Richard Young and Daniel Hill will definitely slot in and take these carries over. And it's Alabama, man. They always have good running backs. So I don't think that it's too far of a step down. I do know all the weight and mass Jam Miller put on was exciting stuff for them. But this offensive line's good. I think Ty Simpson's going to be damn good. I think this Alabama defense is going to be damn good. This is all Alabama for me. And you're right. We are a little more optimistic than Nolan is on this football game for Florida State, and more optimistic on Florida State as a whole than what Nolan is. But, man, I really think Kalen DeBoer has this team ready. And I think with the loser of this football game, Brian, especially if it gets ugly for Florida State, you're going to see nothing but bulletin board material for what these coaches are going through. If somehow Alabama were to lose this football game, the fans are going to be up in arms with Kalen DeBoer. And if Florida State gets rolled at home, you're going to see these fans up in arms over Mike Norvell as well. So I feel really bad for the losing coach in this football game.
I think it's going to be closer than one might expect just with how bad Florida State was last year. But I do think Alabama is going to lean on them and take over probably late third, early fourth in this game for sure. But yeah, all Alabama, they're just more talented.
They're sliding under the radars quietly for how talented they are, man. This is a top 5 talented team in the country, and they're not.
Everybody's talking about Texas and Oregon, Ohio State, all them teams, and it doesn't seem like Alabama's getting. I'm not saying they're not respected, but they're usually on the headlines, and they're 2 or 3 pages down. 2 or 3 articles down on being talked about.
People are quick to forget, man. People are quick to forget all because they missed the playoffs in year one with DeBoer and Nick Saban's not there. Hey, man, DeBoer had Washington humming on all cylinders before he came to Alabama. So this guy knows what he's doing, and I trust him, and I trust Alabama this year. That's for damn sure. The next game that we're going to talk about is a Death Valley matchup that I am pumped up for. This is LSU at Clemson. This is Saturday on 6:30 p.m. at ABC. This is a banger. Clemson is the betting favorite at -3.5. The over-under at 57.5. Bryant, can Brian Kelly and this LSU football team get the monkey off their back of losing in week one every single season, it seems like.
What's the record on that? Are they like their last 5?
I know Brian Kelly.
Like
I know Brian Kelly hasn't won a week one matchup with them since he's been there.
Yeah. So we'll see. This is a tough matchup and tough place to do it with arguably one of the best defenses in the country, including the front 7 of that defense. Personally think Clemson is the better team, not by much. Nussmeier and Klubnik are really good quarterbacks. They both have good receiving cores. This game is going to come down to who plays better defense. LSU was very subpar on that side of the ball last year. I think our old friend Blake Baker can turn them around just as good as anyone. We'll see if he does that. But yeah, can they get past the first game woes? I mean, the Florida State loss a couple years ago, losing to USC last year. It just seems like they always start on the wrong side of the ball. And I'm interested to see what happens this year. But man, playing in Death Valley, they're not their Death Valley. The other Death Valley over there in South Carolina is going to be tough to do.
If LSU and Clemson, or if LSU goes into Clemson and beats Clemson week one, the LSU love is going to go absolutely bananas. It's going to be apeshit. The Garrett Nussmeier love is going to be absolutely bananas, and I think LSU to the moon at that point, and it would be absolutely incredible. But man, we got a comment coming in. Keep an eye on the Weeks brothers. Whit Weeks, baby. I told you guys about this. This is my defensive player of the year coming into 2025. Keep an eye on Whit Weeks if you're watching this football game. You're damn right, Jordan. He is going to be sideline to sideline in this football game. That's one thing I can guarantee. Couple questions I have coming into this football game. What does this LSU receiving core look like with kind of a new look, I would call it? You lose some of your big name guys. You obviously have big name guys coming in, but you lose those for sure alpha male in the locker room at the receiver position type guys. You have an abundance of really good guys now. So what does that look like? How does it slot in for them? What does this LSU offensive line look like when you lose loads of talent and you replace first-round caliber players? What does this LSU defense look like this season? Does Blake Baker get them to take that big step up? Does Whit Weeks captain this defense? Does Harold Perkins become who everybody thought Harold Perkins was going to be defensively? On the flip side of this, my questions for Clemson. How do they run the football? You slide in, I think his name is Adam Randall, from receiver to be your main running back this season. What does that look like? Is he really the guy? Can he take the licks all football game? Especially when you match up against a hard-nosed SEC opponent like this. This is not your run-of-the-mill ACC opponent. Everybody should know that going into this football game. What does Cade Klubnik look like? Do we get Cade Klubnik in big games early on last season where the moment looks too big? Or do we get Cade Klubnik that was the quarterback down the stretch that was lighting up opponents, reading defenses, utilizing all of his receivers because they're all so damn good? When Wesco is arguably your number 3, maybe your number 2, your receiving core is one of the best in the business. So what does that look like? This is an exciting, intriguing matchup from every aspect. Both these teams have huge playoff aspirations and huge aspirations for the season. So, Bryant, I'm pumped up. I'm probably more excited for this one than I am any other matchup just because I have a lot of questions about both these teams, but it's not bad questions, right? It's good questions, and there's so much talent to watch in this football game.
You talked about quarterbacks shooting up Heisman boards in the first game with Texas and Ohio State. I think this has more implications as far as that's concerned. Whoever wins this game, I think, is going to be the front runner. They're already up there. So if you beat a quality opponent, especially if LSU wins, they're going to be right there, if not first, betting odds to win the Heisman. Personally, I think there's more questions on LSU's side than there is Clemson. But there is a fair amount of Clemson as well, like you alluded to. But yeah, I'm excited to see this game. Probably my favorite game to look forward to this weekend, especially with it being in prime time there on Saturday. But yeah, it comes down. Can LSU get the monkey off their back with the week 1 football games?
Which team dominates the trenches? Which team gets the run game going? I think that's where you see the difference in this football game, Brian.
Absolutely.
The last game that we're going to talk about on our main game breakdown, damn, Brian, we are kicking ass in this episode tonight, man. We're rolling. The last main game breakdown we have is Notre Dame at Miami, and talk about a game with questions, especially at the quarterback position. This game, 8:31. That's Sunday, right? Yeah, Sunday, 6:30 p.m. on ABC. Notre Dame going into Hard Rock at Miami, not a tough place to play, in my opinion. But Notre Dame -2.5. The over-under is 49.5. We got some quarterback questions, man. CJ Carr, Carson Beck, new looks on this team as well. Bryant, tell me what you see for this football game. Do you give the edge to Freeman or Cristobal?
Man, that's a tough one, especially on our show. I think
this is a hard show on both those guys.
Yeah, I think Freeman, personally, I think Notre Dame has the better team. Yeah, the CJ Carr quarterback thing came down to the wire there at the end, but really, I think he's the better quarterback personally for them. But I do think Miami has a better offensive line than Notre Dame does. Notre Dame's is very good, but Miami's is just that good. Personally, I don't like Carson Beck. Don't believe he's an all-around that good of a quarterback. Maybe a change of scenery helps for him. My biggest question is, how does Miami's defense look? It was utterly bad last year. I mean, it was so bad that Cam Ward was literally carrying this team to wins at every single week. It seemed like. Have they made an adjustment? We will see. This is an old Catholics versus convicts meeting from the 90s. There's going to be a little bit of blood in this game. They're not a constant rival, but there is a rivalry here. Personally, the most thing I'm excited to see is how Jeremiah Love looks, fully healthy, arguably the best running back in the country, and how he looks alongside that receiving core, and then CJ Carr moving that offense. Going to be a fun game to watch for sure.
Yeah, these two teams just don't like each other. There is a lot of bad blood there. You're going to see a lot of pushing and shoving in this one, and hey, we are all about that. Also, like you said, one of the best offenses in the country last year in Miami with one of the worst defenses in the country last year in Miami. What does that look like this year? Do they get that defense revamped? Do they have a new look, a new style? Because nothing worked last year. I think that they might be able to have their way early on in this football game, though, Brian. I think the CJ Carr questions, for me, people may not like Beck. People may not be a believer in Carson Beck. But what Carson Beck does have is a lot of games under his belt, a lot of big games under his belt. So that's where I give, especially the early on edge, to Miami in this football game, because can CJ Carr come out and do it in a big game, big week one? I mean, there's a lot of pressure leading up to this football game for him. We had a comment come in from Jordan. No question about Notre Dame quarterback. Just give the rock to Jay Love. I think, joking aside, that's what a lot of this is going to be, right? I think a lot of the easing of the nerves for CJ Carr is going to be feeding Jeremiah Love, and it should be. If not, Marcus Freeman, we're going to have a lot of questions for you in the week one review next week if you didn't do that. So the big questions for me is, which offensive line generates a push for the run game? Which offensive line keeps the quarterback upright? Can CJ Carr gain that confidence early to allow them to go take this football game over late? Because I think they do have the edge defensively. I also want to see Notre Dame's receivers. We had a lot of questions for them last year, Brian. They did step up late in the season last year in the playoffs, but overall as a unit, we had a lot of questions. And you and I made the comment last year in the playoffs for this coming season. They've got to make some changes at the skill position, at the receiver position for this team for them to be a true threat all of 2025 with new quarterback play. So I'm anxious to see how those things work out for these two football teams. And I also think Miami has so much talent offensively to replace that it's going to be an uphill fight for Cristobal and Carson Beck.
Absolutely. I already know next week when we review this game, there's going to be a boneheaded coaching call at some point.
Something stupid going to happen.
It's going to change the aspect of the game somehow, and I can't wait to see what that is. I mean, Cristobal and Freeman, something's going to happen. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Beck, he struggles when he gets pressure in his face. If they can avoid that, it might be a good day for Miami. If not, it's going to be an issue because I don't think he has the greatest of weapons on the outside, nor the running back position that Notre Dame does. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. You alluded to Notre Dame's wide receivers a little bit. Pay attention to Jaden Greathouse. He had an outstanding playoffs for them, and he's just a sophomore. So I think he's going to take a bigger step forward this year and be a focal point on the outside for them that they truly need.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Greathouse can be the difference maker at the receiver position for Notre Dame this season. And they'll probably have another tight end step up and be big.
I was going to mention, I don't know exactly who their tight end is, but, besides Iowa, Notre Dame is like tight end U.
It happens all the time. So let's now move into what we like to call our preview quickie. This is some of mine and Brian's favorite stuff that we have to offer here. How this works is we do some quick hitters right here. We're going to go over 3 games real quick. I'm going to cover a game, Brian's going to cover a game, and then one of us is going to cover a game right here at the end. So there's only 3 of us on this episode. The first game that we're going to cover is my game that I'm going to cover myself. And the first preview quickie we have this week is – hang on, I clicked on the wrong one here. I got to go back. Is it coming up? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. I need to close out this other one real quick on the this main game breakdown here and get rid of this football game. So we got it. Nebraska -6.5 versus Cincinnati. This game is in Kansas City. This is a neutral site football game. The over-under sitting at 52.5. What does this look like for Matt Rule in year 3? We know Matt Rule in year 3 always has success. He always has everywhere he's gone. What does it look like for Dylan Raiola year 2 as a starter? Last year being a true freshman, didn't have some of the best talent around him. I felt like at times this offensive line, I think, is going to be much improved, and I think this receiving core is going to be much improved as well for Raiola. Look for him to find Dane Key early and often. I think Nebraska can really score some points and ramp it up this season. My biggest concern for them is what does that defense look like? They don't look great on paper. Can they step up and make some big-time plays in these big-time moments? I don't believe Cincinnati has all that much to throw at them. So I think Nebraska make a point, prove a point right here in this week 1 matchup and dominate Cincinnati and answer a ton of questions. I think Nebraska kicks ass in this football game. If not, it's going to scare me moving forward, especially for that book it win total of over 7.5 that we have for Nebraska.
Hey, old friend Williams Nwaneri getting the start at weak side defensive end for Nebraska.
You know what, Bryant? Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him leaving Mizzou and coming out and going over there to RL Foe, Nebraska. Next game we have on this preview quickie is Virginia Tech versus South Carolina. The line is South Carolina -7.5, over under 52.5. Bryant, tell them what you got.
Yeah, this is also a neutral site game being played in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome where the Falcons play. I definitely think South Carolina is the better team on both sides of the ball. Can Virginia Tech get anything going with Kyron Drones? And they really need it because we talked about it last week. Their head coach is on the hot seat. They got to get something going, and this will be a statement game for them to do it so. But I really do think South Carolina rolls in this game. They're the much more prepared and well-rounded team. Excited to see how they look, though. This isn't a walk-in game like you usually get in week 1 at all. So excited to see how Lenora Sellers looks. What's Nick Harbor? Looks on the outside, and then Dylan Stewart on that defensive side of the ball as well. I'm excited to see how those guys look. One thing to bring up, I haven't heard anything. Is the running back for South Carolina, is he going to be eligible?
Faison was granted eligibility to play this season as of yesterday.
Okay, I was meant to check on that, but I forgot. So that's even better for them. So
yes.
South Carolina has more weapons. I think it'll be a little closer game to begin with, but I think South Carolina is going to pull away in the end.
Yeah, Faison Attaway duo, love that. This shows high on South Carolina. This is a big moment for us. They need to wax ass. The last game in our quickie segment that we're going to touch on here is TCU at UNC. TCU -3.5. The over/under 56.5. Bill Belichick in prime time. Sonny Dykes in prime time. Bryant, this is you again. Hit him with it real quick.
Man, I never thought I would ever see Bill Belichick in college football at all, but here we are. Excited to see what his team looks like. Their biggest question mark is who replaces Marion Hampton's production from last year. That guy was arguably the second or third best running back in the country, with a ton of production that they're losing there because he's gone. And I think you see it in the line. And TCU's the slight favorite on the road in Chapel Hill. Josh Hoover is a good quarterback. I think he's played well last season. Let's see if we can build on that. Just excited to see how both of these teams look. I think we have higher expectations on both of these teams than maybe people do around the country. So we'll see how that plays out in this game. This is the only game on Monday, I believe. So I think a lot of people will be tuned in to this game there in prime time on Labor Day. Excited to see how both teams play, and especially to see how Belichick is on a college football sideline, much less an NFL sideline like we're used to.
To answer your question, Davion Gauss is the guy that's going to replace on Marion Hampton's production at that running back position.
Remember him, yes.
Get familiar with him because you're going to hear his name a lot. Okay, so that covers everything that Bryant and I have for the main game breakdowns for our quickie for week 1. man, we kicked that ass right there, Brian. So we have nothing left to talk about other than the book it segment. And it is time for us to get some money back, Brian. I'm not excited about how week 0 went, but it's time to make that money. Let's go ahead and fill the pocketbooks up and make house payments for everybody following us out there. Let's get right into this thing, baby. So
Let's do it.
Play that we are going to have for you guys in the book it segment is Florida Atlantic, Maryland. Under. Screwed that up already. Under 60. This play is coming in at minus 120. Bryant, tell the fans what we're going to do in this football game.
Yeah, this is a pretty high line for this game, in my opinion. We haven't talked about Florida Atlantic much. We talked to Maryland a little bit in the Big Ten preview, but I don't think both of these teams are very high-powered on offense. Don't really see why this is at 60, so that's why we're on the under. Really like this play, so we'll see how it goes. But, yes, we need to build some momentum from last week, so we're going to book that.
We're going to book that shit, baby. We're going to go ahead and make that money right here, right out of the gate, and look to answer back real quickly. The next game that we're going to talk about on the Book It segment is Temple UMass. Hey, we like to get nasty. I know nobody saw a Temple UMass play coming from Deep Threat Sports Network tonight, but we have a Temple UMass over 48. Both these teams' defenses are trash, and I think these teams might be able to score some points in this football game. So we're going to go ahead and book it in this football game as well, baby. Let's make that money. Brian, anything on it?
Yeah, both these defenses are subpar. Don't really think either offense is that good either, but when your defenses are that bad, they're going to score a bunch of points. So this is a really low line, personally, at 48. So we're going to take the over on this one.
Hey, book it, baby. Make that money. Usually when the over-under is low, we like to stay under because it's telling us something, but I think the odds-on makers are going to miss on this one. The next game that we want to talk about here in the Book It segment, ECU at NC State. NC State minus 14, sitting at minus 108. You can book it. I believe in CJ Bailey at NC State this football season. They're going to make a statement at home. They're going to dominate, and they're going to bring the money home. Bryant, tell them what we got.
Yeah, I'm right with you with CJ Bailey. NC State is the much better team on offense. Think they're going to score a bunch of points. Eastern Carolina has a bunch of questions, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I love this play. NC State's at home. It's going to be a big crowd. It always is there in NC State. So we're going to book that shit at minus 14.
Let's go, baby. Hey, that's another winner right there. The next one we're going to talk about, we're going to stay nasty. Jacksonville State plus 21, sitting at minus 120 at UCF. Hey, we saw this line open up at like 19. We liked it at 19. You mean to tell us that it's getting bought the other direction? Buy that dip. Get it to 21. It's sitting at minus 120. UCF's not good. They've shown us nothing. I'm not a believer. Jacksonville State, baby. We're going to book that shit too.
Absolutely. And for everybody that does not know, Jacksonville State is not in Florida.
Jacksonville State is not in Florida. I actually did not know that until like 4 years ago. And,
it is in Alabama.
Don't make that assumption. They're going to kick that Florida ass, though, this week. Central Florida ass, I should say.
If everybody hasn't been paying attention, Jacksonville State has quite a bit of an offensive powerhouse in the FCS for sure.
Hey, they moved up. They moved up last year.
Excuse me. That's right. They're in the FBS now. But yeah. Still.
Even better.
They're legit. We had that our college football fantasy, and I was cruising looking for some Jacksonville State guys because I know they're going to put up big numbers. I think we'll see that this weekend.
Yeah, UCF ain't going to do much in this football. I mean, they're going to win it. They should win it, but they don't scare me at all against Jacksonville State. The next game that we have on our docket, we talked about this game earlier. Cincy versus Nebraska. Nebraska minus 6. It was 6.5. We buy the hook, get it to minus 135, down to minus 6. Feel really good about this one, Brian. This might be my favorite play of the whole entire week. I think Nebraska takes care of business. I think Dylan Raiola comes out here and lights it up and shows why he was the top prospect that he was. Bryant, Nebraska, minus 6. We're going to book that shit.
Love it.
The next game that we have on our docket, we're just cashing checks. The next game that we have on our docket for the Book It segment is Texas, Ohio State, over 47, minus 121. Bryant, tell them what we got here.
Yeah, it's going to be an evenly matched up game for sure, like we talked about earlier. But there's so many playmakers on the offensive side of the ball for each one of these teams. They're going to score some points. Yeah, their defenses are really, really good, but 47 is kind of a joke in my opinion. I think it covers that. So we're going to book that over 47 in this game. Big time game.
Too much firepower. Too much firepower. I think this is too low of a line. That's why we're sitting here talking about it. The next game that we're going to talk about in the Book It segment, Alabama minus 13, sitting at minus 125 against Florida State, at Florida State, I should say. Hey, Nolan's a Florida State fan, and he's telling us he is betting the house on Alabama minus 13. So we're going to fall in line with our friendly coworker here at DTSN and Nolan, because he's a Florida State fan, and we're going to lay the house on Alabama minus 13. Book it.
Yeah, I had the screenshot. Nolan said, what do you guys think about Alabama minus 13? Hell, I think it was even minus 14 at that point. And we're like, I almost took a screenshot. Like, did he just send that? I mean, he's a Florida State fan. But, man, I'm right there with him. I think Alabama rolls. But Nolan is down the dumps with his team, it seems like, already.
Nolan likes this all the way to 3 touchdowns. So what we're going to do at minus 13, you hear it right there.
You're going to book it.
Bring the bands, baby. Book it. The next game that we're going to talk about, and hey, we have a lot of games, man. We have like 10 plays for you guys this week. We're not shy in week 1. The next game that we're going to talk about on this Book It segment is LSU Clemson. Under 58 at minus 120. We think this game shoots a little bit low. We think they put it so high because of the quarterbacks. We think we can see some things change. We think we can see Clemson get home on this pass rush and slow things down a little bit and maybe take the air out of the football. So, Brian, tell them what we're going to do.
Yeah, this is personally my favorite play of our Book It segment here. I think this goes under. Like we talked about, both teams have good defenses, especially Clemson. I think it's going to be dictated by that side of the ball a little bit more than what this line dictates. So we're going to take the under at 58, and we're going to book that.
Book it, baby. 2 more plays for you guys here in the segment this week. The next one that we have is Utah, minus 5, sitting at minus 135 at UCLA. It's 5.5. We buy the hook. We make it minus 5. You know we always buy the hook on this network, and we encourage you guys to do that well. Pay the premium to get it down so you don't get got by the hooky. Bryant, tell them what we got here.
Man, a lot of money on the UCLA side. It seems like this game started out at minus 7.5, even minus 8 in some places, and it's down to minus 5. I think Utah is the much better team, way better head coach. I think all the money's on UCLA because of the Nico story, and they think he's going to go in there and ball out. Don't see it, so we're booking the Utes minus 6.
Book it, baby.
That is a late game. That is a late game on Sunday, I believe.
Absolutely. So when you've cashed checks all day with Deep Threat Sports Network, you can come in and cash checks late at night on some late night football. And people are talking about Nico. We're talking about Devin Dampier here on this network for Utah at the quarterback position. Forget Nico. Talk Devin Dampier and the Utah Utes minus 5. Book it. The last play that we have for you guys on the Book It segment this week, Virginia Tech versus South Carolina. Love me some South Carolina Gamecocks minus 7, minus 120. You can book that shit. Put a stamp on it, Bryant. We love the Gamecocks minus 7 here on this network this week.
That was the first game I looked at on the slate and what the line was. If it was anywhere under 10, I was going to immediately put that on this segment and recommend it for us to put here. So, you know, me and you love South Carolina. So we're booking it at minus 7. Love our slate of Book It segment this week. 10 games in week 1. Man, I hope anything doesn't go awry, but I don't see it. Let's go like 8-2 this week. What do you think?
Hey, 7-3 or better in week 1, Bryant. We can put a stamp on that, and I'm all about what that has to offer for us because I agree. And I think South Carolina minus, I think it's a little disrespectful, Bryant. I think it's a little bit disrespectful for what they brought to the table last year in Virginia Tech, and it wasn't much, man. It was not much. So what we're going to do here is we're going to review a little bit. We're going to throw these up here real quick so we can let everybody that's following us on YouTube, we're going to throw it up on the screen for you guys right here so you guys can see what all we have real quick. Get you a screenshot. Tell your friends. Tell your family. You're cashing checks. If you live at home, you got the electric bill this month because we're going to make some money this week 1. We're going to read it off for all the fans that follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So 1 through 10 here. Florida Atlantic against Maryland, under 60. Temple UMass, over 48. NC State, minus 14. Jacksonville State, plus 21. Nebraska, minus 6. Texas, Ohio State, over 47. Alabama, minus 13. LSU Clemson, under 58. Utah, minus 6. South Carolina, minus 7. Book it. Best believe it. You're making money this week. Bryant, anything else you got?
I want to add one thing I noticed looking, especially on DraftKings, or depending on where you live and what you can use. A lot of times these sports books won't offer, like, say, for instance, Florida Atlantic in Maryland right now is at 60.5. Well, you can either bet 60.5, 61.5, 59.5, whatever. They don't give you even numbers. It seems like a lot of times nowadays. But we're comfortable if you're buying the hook and you can go up a full point. You're not going to pay a whole lot of you're not going to lose a whole lot on odds. So, for instance, FAU Maryland is under 60.5 on DraftKings. Take it at under 60 and 61.5 or whatever it is. You're not going to bust too much on odds there. I just wanted to bring that up because I noticed they don't really offer the even numbers a whole lot. It seems like, at least on DraftKings.
Yeah, some books don't let you buy half points, which sucks because I'm a huge believer in always buying that hook. But if we feel comfortable, hey, hammer it there. If you feel comfortable or you want to buy a full point, get down to 59.5, then do that. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. Or hell, if you think because we went 1-2 in week 0 and you want to fade us and go against us on all of it, do that. Let us know how it goes. Write our ass in the comments next week. I promise you, we beat ourselves up more than you guys can for us out there. And I'm telling you, there's a couple on here that if they don't hit, Brian, I'm going to beat my own ass because I'm all in on what we have on the docket this week.
Absolutely.
Anything else before I get us out of here?
No, I'm good, man. It was a good show. We cruised through that, but I think that was good.
Like we said early in the episode, we combined the week 0 review with the week 1 preview this week. And the reason being, as you can see, we're only at 1 hour and 6 minutes here. The reason we did that is because week 0 wasn't much. We felt like most people that follow us and listen to us probably really only cared to hear about the Kansas State-Iowa State game. Probably didn't care much else with the other games that we covered. But, hey, they were the best games on the docket, so we wanted to cover it, and so we did that. Jordan comes in right now, so no Central Arkansas. No, Central Arkansas is not on the docket for the Book It segment. If you feel comfortable, take it. Hey, we're not going to sit here and tell you not to bet on lines against Mizzou. We're just not going to take them ourselves here on this network. But if you feel good, man, let the rocks fly and make your own Book It segment. But get out of here with that shit. We don't cheer for Central Arkansas. All right. So you can find us back next week. We will do a week 1 review episode because it'll be a full episode, and a week 2 preview episode next week. You're probably going to see us 2 out of the 3 days between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 2 of those 3 days, those work the best for all of us here at the network. So we will be in for 2 of those days next week. Glad you guys to follow along. Make sure before you get out of here, you're liking, subscribing, clicking the alerts button, telling your friends, telling your family. We're here to make you guys money. We're doing the work so you don't have to. That's Brian. I'm Colin. You can follow us on YouTube at Deep Threat Sports, Apple Deep Threat Sports, Spotify Deep Threat Sports, XDT_sports_, Facebook, Deep Threat Sports Network. We did this last year a little bit. If we see some injuries come out late, make sure you're following us on X or Facebook. We're going to be updating our picks in case something happens, and we want to let you guys know ASAP, hey, get this one off the docket. We don't like it. If something crazy happens and we want to add one and we like it, follow us on those 2 platforms because we're going to add it there as well. So make sure you're not missing out on the last-ditch effort that we're going to make to give you guys all the info that we can. Brian, fans, until next time, peace.